Yeah, we've on the Wednesday lunchtime class, we look at the three practices that we teach, at least introductory level. I mean, there are other practices as we go on in time through deepening our practice that we do within Triratna, but there's these three practices that we focus on. So we've got the mindfulness of breathing practice, which we've been exploring, the metta bhavana practice, which we did kind of last term, the sort of spring term, and we've got the just sitting practice, which we'll be looking at in the autumn term, going into in more depth. So we're August now, so we're kind of coming up to our transition, which will be in September. Normally during August we're closed actually at the centre, but we've decided because we're online to carry on with our classes and our programme. So we're here throughout August. Yeah, so we've been looking at mindfulness of breathing practice particularly, and exploring ways into that, and been looking at the hindrances and ways of using the body to work with the hindrances. We've been looking at what happens when you start to become absorbed in meditation, what's called access meditation. And access is access to dhyana. So dhyana is the Buddhist word for absorption in meditation, when we start to become concentrated, and how we can kind of transition into that place of absorption, of concentration, what to do around that, what to do with the object around that. So we're going to be carry on with that today, having another look at access into dhyana. So this is access, if we're doing these kinds of concentration meditations, is something that can happen at any time, really. And it's in a way, it's a fruit of the effort that we've been making in meditation over time, that we start to become absorbed. And there's no guarantee when absorption will take place. It's not something that we can make happen in the way we might think about making things happen. But we are always looking to provide the conditions where absorption can start to arise. And to put that in the bigger context, particularly within what we teach at Triratna, that absorption is to do with this stage of integration, or aspect, might be a better way of talking about it. So we have this system of spiritual practice, which includes 5 aspects. Integration is one of them, positive emotion is another, receptivity is another, spiritual death and spiritual rebirth are the other ones. So particularly at the beginning of a meditation path or a Buddhist path, the phase of integration is very useful. So it's about drawing together our psychophysical energies and overcoming obstacles and blockages in that psychophysical energy, being able to become more integrated, being able to sit in an undistracted state more easily and more readily. And another way you talk about it is being able to become more at peace with ourselves, is what this stage of integration is about. So and the traditional Buddhist path to integration is through particularly the mindfulness of breathing meditation practice, but also the metta bhavana meditation practice. Well, in fact, all the meditation practices work on that aspect of integration. as so ethics and behavioral awareness, etc., mindfulness will work on that aspect of integration. So in order to become integrated in meditation, we focus on an object, and traditionally the breath is the object that we focus upon. It's been used for thousands of years in not only Buddhist meditation, but meditation practices from other traditions as well. Because the breath is a physical object, it's a sensate object, and when we're focusing in that way, if we do become focused on a sensate object, physical object like the breath, then we can't at the same time be lost in our thoughts and our thinking, and we can't be distracted. So, I mean, that is what the mindfulness breathing is really. It's just a way of becoming focused upon the body, in this case through using the breathing. But it's not just confined to that. I mean, you can use other objects of concentration in mindfulness meditation, and there's a list of them in traditional Buddhist lists about what can be form and useful objects of concentration. You can stare at candles, coloured discs, all sorts of things. But I think we find, and I think most people find, that the breath is a very useful starting place for integration meditation and mindfulness meditation. And as we start to become concentrated, if we are able to stay with the breathing, the landscape, our internal landscape, starts to shift a bit. So we're very used to just being with our thoughts a lot of the time. When we look inside, it's mostly our thoughts that we become aware of. And if we start to become concentrated in meditation, start to get into what's called access awareness, thinking is something that starts to die down, and the object of awareness starts to come more to the fore. And it's easier, becomes much easier to stay with the object of awareness. When we're able to do this for a little while, if we're able to sustain awareness on the breath for even for say 5 minutes, pretty uninterruptedly, we are starting to enter into access concentration. What we call the hindrances, these kinds of patternings of our emotional, psychological, mental being are starting to die down. So anxiety, restlessness, craving, simple desire not to be here, the tendency to just go off in wandering thoughts, all of these things start to calm down, and we can actually be with the object of concentration and be happy just to be in this present moment with the sensate body. So yeah, that starts to happen. We start to become calmer, we start to stay with the breathing, and we shift our awareness subtly from the object itself to the pleasurable aspect of that. So this is where we're starting to cultivate the factors that go up to make absorption. So these factors include what's called rapture or priti, which is an energetic arising within the body, and another factor is sukha or bliss. Those don't have to be very large components. So bliss might not be that you're, totally blissed out. It might just be a sense of satisfaction, contentment, peace within the body. And so you've got these two factors particularly we're trying to kind of bring out in the meditation that help us to become further absorbed. So this can be a bit of a surprise to people that, you know, focusing on the pleasurable aspect of one's experience can help one to become more focused. But this is what the Buddha discovered, and this is what has been taught through centuries of Buddhist concentration meditation. So we're looking for those kind of factors within our experience. We're looking for the energetic uprising, by focusing on the pleasurable aspect of the physical sensations. And once that starts to get going, we start to look for a kind of contentment, a deeper contentment as well. These factors, when they come together, start to form a whole. And that's what you could describe as the integrated state. So the Buddha gave a simile for this. It's like soap and water being mixed together. So in ancient India, soap used to come in flakes, apparently. You mix the flakes and the water together, and they form a ball where all the water and all the flakes are kind of molded together into one. Lee Brassington, who's written a book called Right Concentration, very good book if you're interested in reading more about absorption and concentration meditation and the dhyanas. It's a very good book. It's called Right Concentration, Lee Brassington. He says that you don't get this integration without a certain amount of whisking. So the whisking is this kind of energetic arising that can happen by focusing on the pleasurable aspect of the breath. Once we've managed to kind of stay with the breathing for, up to 5 minutes, fairly uninterruptedly, we can just start to focus on that pleasurable aspect. Just to say, quite a lot of energy can get released through meditation when we do start to become absorbed. So, you can, that whisking can lead to quite a lot of energy coming into the body. Even, sort of bolts of energy going up the spine. Sometimes you see people sort of jolting in meditation. That's usually what's happening, that some amount of energy, the energy seems to travel up the spine, and that's why it's an important part of posture, that the posture is sort of aligned so that energy can travel through the body. This sort of priti energy can travel through the body. So it can get quite energetic. If that starts to happen too much, it can knock one off one's concentration, even because the energy is so strong. Try to quickly start to look for the contentment aspect of the energy. So we'd be focusing with the pleasure. That tends to lead to the energetic uprising, the priti, the rapture. We focus on the contentment and the blissful, if you want to use that term, but I would say just the more contented aspect of our experience, and that can help to calm down the energy. And these two factors can start to come closer together. So you get a steadier, more whole feeling kind of absorption with that. And it might be at this point, the object of concentration, the breath, might not be necessarily be so prevalent. So it might be you are just focusing on these two elements of the rapture and the bliss, to give them their big names, or just this certain energetic arising and a certain kind of contentment, and just bringing those factors in and focusing on them helps the absorption to carry on. So I'm just going to say one other thing. So often when you hear dhyana described, it's talked about in terms of well, a very absorbed state, and you know, it can happen in that experience that all the sounds in the room, everything kind of disappears, and that may happen. It's not that dhyana has just one look to it. So you can get what's called hard dhyana and soft dhyana. So hard dhyana is when this happens, and you know, tends to be that all one sort of sense experience kind of disappears, and you've just got the breath, or the breath might become very prevalent, or just these feelings of energy and contentment arise, and they become the focus, and nothing else it appears. Or it can be that you get this softer kind of dhyana where you still got thoughts going on, there's a sort of chattering in the background, but you are becoming absorbed, and the hindrances, the grosser forms of the hindrances, are disappearing. And that sort of dhyana is potentially accessible to us, you know, on a day-to-day basis, living in the city. The harder form of dhyana, it can arise at any time, but there's a bit more of a tendency to arise under particular conditions, like being on a long retreat. But this sort of softer form of dhyana, where we start to become absorbed, the hindrances start to die away, we're able to stay on the breath, some energy starts to arise, we're able to stay with it, and it may only, you know, it may only arise for a few minutes in a particular meditation practice, but that is still dhyana. It just doesn't perhaps feel such a big wow experience, but we are going beyond the hindrances, which is what we're aiming for, really. I mean, that integration is going beyond those mental emotional patternings that we normally get stuck in, yeah, this path of integration you know, leads us to other places. Let's just say that for now. Okay, I've talked far longer than I expected to. Okay, anyway, always the best way is just to have a go at it. So we'll set up for meditation. So just let go of everything that I've been saying, and just coming into the body. So the body is a great ally in meditation. It's always a place to come back to. Zen master Dogen, very famous Japanese Zen master in the Middle Ages, said that the body is completely beyond the world's dust. Body is completely beyond the world's dust, meaning that our body and being in the body, and when we're aware and in the body, we are beyond all the machinations of the mind, the distractions of the world, all the perturbed aspects of our experience, because the body is always beyond those things. So just checking our posture, making sure we've got a stable base. Good grounding with the floor. The spine is upright. And chin slightly tucked in. And we allow the stability and the grounding within the posture to support us, so we can give up the whole body to gravity. Just let go in the body, whatever can be let go of. Notice any places that we're holding on, any contractions, and letting go. You can become aware of a sense of benevolence within our experience. We're already engaged in an act of benevolence, kindness towards ourselves. Meditation is just that. It benefits ourselves and it benefits the world. So looking for that sense of heart response, sense of kindness and benevolence towards ourselves, towards our experience. And just checking in where we are at the moment. So, are we just happy, content just to sit here and be with our experience? Or is there some discomfort in that? Some not wanting to be in our experience, not wanting to be here. Notice where the thinking mind is going. So if we're not content just to be here, usually the thinking mind is going to some other place. So it may be that we are craving something that's not here, some experience, some place, or just wanting to wander off in our thoughts rather than be here. Or there may be some aversion within our experience. maybe some story running. How we're wronged, or how we're not seen, or some story like that. Just noticing where the mind wants to go. Maybe it wants to kind of veg out and just sort of sleep through this meditation. So there's no judgment about the mind. All we're interested in is just being aware of what it wants to do, where it wants to go, what it's thinking, and what it's feeling. So these are the hindrances. If there are no hindrances present, just being glad about that. Unhooking from the mind sense and coming into the sensate body. So really looking for the sensations, starting at the head and face. Allowing awareness to become absorbed into those sensations. Sensations around the eyes, the jaw, the mouth. And come down through the body into the lower abdomen. All the time following the sensations down through the body. So sensations in the neck and throat. Sensations seem vague. Just staying with the vague sense and just exploring to see if we can find more there. Sensations in the upper chest. You may pick up on some of the sensations of the breathing around the diaphragm, and the chest rising and falling. Sometimes there are sensations of tension around the diaphragm. And moving down into the lower abdomen. So the area below the navel. And again, looking directly for the sensations. So we may be able to pick up again on the sensations of the breathing in the lower abdomen. As long as we're not feeling too tired, this can be a good place to focus awareness of the breath. It's very grounded. You might also be aware of a sense of contentment in the lower abdomen. It can be quite useful to think about going inside from the surface. So we go in about 3 inches from the surface of the lower abdomen with our awareness. It's like a center down here. It's called the hara, or the lower tantien. It's like an energetic center. You can imagine breathing in through this point, this hara in the lower abdomen. Right down in the belly. If you are feeling tired, you can take the awareness of the breath further up in the body. even up as far as the nose, where the breath first comes in, and that can act as a stimulation. If you can, staying with the breathing in the lower abdomen. And staying with the heart of this area below the navel, but in about 3 or 4 inches, as it were, into the body. We can imagine or even feel ourselves breathing through this point, breathing from this point. So if we are able to stay with the breath, whether it be in the lower abdomen or up further in the body, like around the nostrils, shifting our awareness subtly from awareness of the sensations themselves to the pleasurable aspect of the sensations. It's just like we allow that aspect of the sensations to come through more, the pleasurable aspect. If that seems a bit too subtle at the moment, continue to stay with the sensations of the breath and to build up the absorption. Maybe also that we are finding ourselves still in the hindrances. So if that's the case, that's fine. That's just what's going on. So see if we can name what that hindrance is. We'll just become aware of it. That we are feeling restless or distracted, or we're thinking about something that's not here, some future event, something pleasurable, or we're running some story that's based in aversion. What we want to do is just be aware of what the shape of that hindrance is like, and just name it. It's ill will, it's aversion, it's craving. Become aware of it and name it. Maybe just enough for that hindrance to leave us alone, and we can come back to the object of the breath, the lower abdomen, or wherever we're following it. Become absorbed in the sensations again. And carry on. If we have been able to stay with the breathing fairly consistently, with the sensations of the breath, noticing their pleasurable aspect, you can look for these qualities of energy, of uplift. There may be tingling within the body, within the physical sensations of the breathing. Just allowing that energy to come through. So we can look for these qualities directly in the area that we're focusing upon. So if we're in the lower abdomen, we can look for the energetic qualities there. If we're focusing more around the nostrils, again looking for that energy, slight sense of uplift, energy on the move, tinglings. Alongside the more energetic aspect, also look for the quality of contentment, or sukha. So this is has more blissful flavour to it. A bit like if we've just eaten a really good meal, it's very satisfying. It's a particularly good quality to look for in the lower abdomen. So it's more peaceful than the energetic uprising. So we're not trying to do anything with these, we're just trying to become aware of them, allow them to be there, allow them to manifest. You may notice a deeper sense of contentment arising as these qualities come together. You may notice that thoughts have died away, maybe not completely. It's much more peaceful, much more spacious in our experience.